Right now, you're in a game. Not one with controllers or scoreboards, but one you wake up to every day. A game made of conversations, favors, eye contact, silence, tone, timing, apologies, expectations, forgiveness, and the invisible math behind human behavior. Whether you realize it or not, every interaction you have, who you trust, who you avoid, when you speak up, when you stay quiet, is part of a larger pattern of choices. And those choices don't just affect what happens in the moment, they shape the next moment, and the next, and the next. That's where game theory begins, not with competition, but with awareness. Think about something as small as dishes in a sink. A simple agreement between roommates turns into a pattern. One person slips once, the other lets it go. The next time, they slip again. You're now faced with a decision, not about dishes, but about strategy. Do you clean it to keep peace now, or leave it to protect fairness later? You're not choosing between clean or dirty. You're choosing between cooperation or consequence, and your choice silently teaches the other person how to treat you in the future. That's the real game, not what's happening, but what your response teaches. Game theory reveals the truth most people never notice. The world isn't shaped by what people do, but by how others respond. Someone can betray, take advantage, ignore or disrespect you, but only if they believe there will be no cost. Someone can stay loyal, generous, honest and helpful, but only if they believe cooperation is rewarded. In other words, the game is never just about the move being made. It's about the future behavior that move creates. And here's the twist that blindsides almost everyone. You don't get to opt out. Even if you don't want drama, even if you just stay chill, even if you don't like confrontation, that itself becomes a strategy, and other people play off of it. No decision is still a decision. Silence is a move. Tolerance is a signal. Ignoring something is still feedback. You're always teaching people how to treat you, even when you think you're letting it go. The question is not, are you playing? The question is, are you playing consciously? Once you understand that every interaction is a mini-game with a future ripple, you stop acting randomly. You stop being shocked when someone repeats a behavior you allowed. You stop trying to win the moment and instead start shaping the pattern. And that's where the advantage begins. Because while 99% of people react emotionally and inconsistently, the 1% who know the game, who understand the long-term nature of cooperation, consequence and trust, can outmaneuver almost anyone without force, manipulation, or overthinking. They win, not because they're more aggressive, but because they see the board everyone else is blind to. So once you finally see the game, the next instinct is to try to win it. That's where most people fall into the trap. They think winning means getting the upper hand, proving dominance, outsmarting the other person, or making sure they never get taken advantage of. On paper, that sounds logical. In reality, it almost always backfires. Not because the move is wrong, but because the mindset is short-term. You can win a moment and lose the entire relationship. You can prove your point and destroy the trust required for the next 100 points that never get scored. That's the paradox most people never learn. The kind of winning that feels good immediately is often the kind that costs you the most in the long run. You've seen this before. The friend who wins every argument, but slowly ends up with fewer friends. The business person who negotiates so hard they get the deal, but never get invited back. The partner who always has to be right, and then wonders why the relationship feels cold. They think they're winning. Strategically, they're bleeding future value. Game theory exposes why this happens. In a single-round game, it can make sense to be selfish, defensive, or manipulative because you only care about one outcome. But in repeated games, which is what real life actually is, that mindset destroys your advantage. When people see you're willing to betray, exploit, guilt or overpower to get your way, they stop cooperating. They stop giving benefits of the doubt. They start playing defense too. And once both sides go into defensive mode, nobody wins anymore. That's called a defection spiral, and it's where relationships, teams, and empires go to die. On the other extreme, you have the nice person who loses for a different reason. They don't want conflict, so they avoid consequence. They try to fix everything by smoothing it over, absorbing the discomfort, or being the bigger person. But generosity without boundaries isn't kindness. It's an invitation to be exploited, and game theory confirms it. When one player cooperates unconditionally, defecting against them becomes the rational choice. Not because people are evil, but because the system rewards taking advantage of them. So you get two kinds of people who lose: the one who always fights and ends up isolated, the one who always forgives and ends up depleted. Different strategy, same result. They lose because they don't understand what the real game is. The truth is simple. Winning isn't about crushing others or avoiding conflict. It's about choosing a strategy that gives you the best result over time. The person who plays for ego loses to the person who plays for longevity. The person who plays for validation loses to the person who plays for structure. The person who tries to win every battle is always shocked when they end up losing the war. And this is exactly why the strategy we're building toward, the one that outsmarts 99% of people, isn't aggressive, passive, or manipulative. It's balanced, it's predictable, it's fair. It rewards cooperation, punishes betrayal, and resets without holding grudges. That strategy changed everything when it was discovered. And in the next section, you'll see exactly how it defeated the smartest minds in the world. So if winning the wrong way makes you lose, the obvious question becomes, what actually works? What strategy doesn't just feel good in the moment, but consistently wins over time, no matter who you're dealing with? That's the question a political scientist named Robert Axelrod wanted to answer. And instead of guessing, he did something brilliant. He turned life into a simulation. He invited the smartest strategists in the world, mathematicians, economists, military analysts, psychologists, to build programs that would compete in a repeated interaction game and prove which mindset wins reality. Every expert came in with a theory. Some wrote programs built on deception, others used intimidation, some tried randomness and unpredictability. A few came in with long-term calculation models so complex they looked like something out of a Cold War intelligence lab. It was the intellectual Olympics of strategy. If there was a genius move that could dominate cooperation and conflict, someone in that tournament would find it. But what won wasn't genius. It wasn't complicated. It wasn't manipulative. And it definitely wasn't aggressive. The winning strategy was only 4 lines of code, built on the same principle a child could understand. Start friendly, match whatever energy you're given, and forgive when the other side resets. No mind games, no secret tricks, no first strike, just clarity, fairness, and immediate accountability. Here's how it worked. It always opened with cooperation. If the other player cooperated, it continued cooperating. If the other player betrayed, it instantly mirrored that betrayal, but only once. And if the other player returned to cooperation, it dropped the past and started fresh. That simple loop destroyed strategies built on manipulation. It outperformed strategies based on greed. It neutralized aggressive players, exposed fake cooperators, and effortlessly formed alliances with the honest ones. Even more shocking, it never won by crushing anyone. It won by creating the most cooperation, avoiding long-term conflict, and punishing betrayal just enough to make people think twice before trying it again. That's why experts were stunned. They assumed the best way to win was to dominate, but the data showed the opposite. The strategy that wins the most isn't the one that defeats others. It's the one that makes others want to cooperate with you. And the reason it beat 99% of people is simple. Most people don't know how to balance trust with consequence. They're either too soft and get used, or too aggressive and get isolated. This strategy did neither. It rewarded goodwill, punished selfishness, and reset the moment someone showed they wanted to try again. That's what changed everything. Because once you see that the winning move in life isn't manipulation or submission, but reciprocal clarity, you stop fighting for power and start building systems of mutual benefit. And that's how a strategy so simple it could fit on a napkin ended up outperforming the smartest minds in the world. Now the question becomes, if a 4-line strategy can beat experts in a simulated world, what does it look like when you actually live it? Because the real power of this approach isn't in theory, it's in how it works with real people, real emotions, and real consequences. And here's where most people finally recognize themselves in the story. Because you already know versions of this strategy in real life. You've met people who live it without ever hearing the word game theory. They're easy to trust, impossible to manipulate, and strangely respected by almost everyone around them. You can spot them instantly. They start off kind, not fake kind but genuinely open. They give respect first instead of demanding it. They assume good intent rather than hunting for reasons to be offended. But the moment someone crosses a line, they don't explode, beg or plead. They respond in equal proportion, not louder, not colder, just clear. And the moment you fix your behavior, they reset without dragging the past like a weapon. No grudges, no silent punishment, no emotional debt collecting. Just, you cooperated, so I cooperate. You defected, so I defend. You corrected, we move on. That is the mirror strategy in real time. And it works everywhere. Relationships, friendships, workplaces, negotiations, family systems, social circles, even online interactions. Why? Because it solves the biggest problem in human interaction: uncertainty. People don't fear kindness. They fear invisible boundaries. They fear being punished randomly. They fear someone who says it's fine when it's not. But when your responses are consistent and proportional, people actually relax around you. They know what you reward, what you reject, and that you're not secretly storing resentment in a drawer labeled someday. Think about the opposite kind of person, the one who's always agreeable, always cool, always fine, until they suddenly erupt or disappear. They think they're avoiding conflict, but they're actually creating it later. Or the person who responds to everything with force, suspicion, or dominance. They think they're protecting themselves, but they're actually teaching people to avoid them unless absolutely necessary. Both personalities lose. One because they never enforce consequence, the other because they never allow forgiveness. But the reciprocal strategy, the equal response rule, builds something much more powerful than protection. It builds reputation. And reputation is currency in every game you play. When people see that you lead with cooperation, but enforce fairness instantly, they don't test you the same way. They don't lie to you the same way. They don't try to use you the same way, not out of fear, but out of predictability. They know exactly what kind of game you're playing, and that makes you one of the rarest people in the world, someone worth cooperating with. Once you understand how the mirror strategy plays out in real life, something becomes obvious. The real advantage doesn't come from overpowering people, intimidating them, or being too smart to be fooled. It comes from becoming the kind of person people want to cooperate with. That's the real cheat code in the game. Not fear, not dominance, predictable fairness. The world already has enough people trying to out-manipulate each other. What it doesn't have enough of is people who reward honesty, respond proportionally, and don't poison the future over one bad moment. Because here's the truth most people don't realize until it's too late. Crushing someone feels satisfying once, but earning someone's trust pays forever. You don't need to be the most powerful person in the room when you're the one everyone would rather work with than work against. That's what the reciprocity code teaches. Strength doesn't mean never being crossed. It means being someone who can't be crossed twice without cost, and someone who resets the moment respect returns. It's a completely different way of winning. You stop wasting energy trying to control people, and instead influence them through clarity. You don't have to force loyalty. You create conditions where loyalty makes sense. People know if they deal fairly with you, they'll get treated fairly back. If they betray you, they lose access to that benefit. That's not softness, that's structure. And structure wins in every version of life, business, leadership, marriage, friendship, nation building, anything. That's why the best strategy doesn't require genius IQ, manipulation, or emotional detachment. It just requires discipline. Discipline to start with goodwill. Discipline to respond to betrayal instantly instead of emotionally. Discipline to let go when the other person corrects themselves. Discipline to avoid revenge when fairness is enough. Most people don't lose because they're weak. They lose because they react instead of operate with a code. Once you internalize that, you stop trying to beat people and start building cooperative ecosystems, friendship groups where everyone levels up, business networks where trust compounds, relationships where respect is the default, not a negotiation. And that's the part game theory reveals that real life confirms. You don't rise by pushing people down. You rise by becoming the person with whom cooperation becomes the smartest move.